Well, and another milestone on that is too, even though it's much, much more from, the ripple effect, it's actually kind of hard to count exactly how many views you get per every episode. But we also broke the 1,000 downloads directly from our syndication place, Podbean, where we host a lot of our stuff. So that's pretty cool too.
That was cool. Congratulations, guys. It's it's been a commitment, and I think that we had Byron Lazine on the show last week, and he podcasts every week, and one of the things he said is it's just a non-negotiable on your schedule, and that is what it's become for us. Yep. I don't think we have missed a Tuesday. We've
that
just
hit
been
home.
It did. It did. It's a non-negotiable.
It was Abby's birthday today, and we were thinking, oh, should we just skip it? Nope, non-negotiable.
It is. It's my baby's birthday.
Well, and even Josh Smith, right, who we all know that his whole business model now operates off of his podcast, as he alluded to us a couple of times. And so good stuff. We're excited to be a guest on that show here before too long.
Yeah, good stuff. Good things happening. Well, we've got a lot going on in the market and a lot of changes. And something that I thought was kind of cool that I wanted to kind of dive right into is, have you heard about the 2 new bills introduced in Congress regarding first-time homebuyers? So the Down Payment Toward Equity Act was introduced a couple weeks ago, and this is actually not a tax credit. It is going to be a grant, the way it's proposed. It's up to $25,000. In order to be eligible, you must be a first-time, here's another key, first-generation home buyer, meaning you cannot have owned a home for the past 3 years, and your parents cannot be homeowners. You also cannot exceed 120% of the area's median income, and you qualify initially for $20,000. And if you have been subjected to racial or ethnic prejudice, you may receive up to an additional $5,000 for a total of $25,000. So that is one of the bills that is currently in Congress.
We should probably talk about that first. There's a lot to break down.
Yeah, there is a lot to unpack on what I just heard.
Yeah,
she's like, tread lightly.
No, it's just calls for the times. It is what it is. It's not good, bad, right, or wrong. It's just very interesting. Yeah. But my question to it is, let's just say that something had happened to you, and you feel like that you were attacked. How do you prove that?
Well,
are they just taking people's word for it? I guess that would be my question.
Yeah, I'm sure they are.
Police reports or whatever.
Yeah,
I doubt there's any qualification towards it.
Well, my favorite writer there was your parents can't own a house.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Well, it's designed to help first-generation home buyers.
Yeah, I think it's cool because I think there are a lot of families that got shafted in the past 100 years, 150 years, and they're realizing that, and I think they're coming in and they're saying, hey, we want to change reparations. That. How do we change that? What kind of model can we do? Can we follow to help change that, rather than just first time home buyer? It could be Sally Joe Blow or Sally and Joe that her parents are multimillionaires and she's just buying a brand new house.
Yeah. Sure. What's the benefit there? Yeah, I see that.
In the grand scheme of things, $25,000 towards a purchase of a home is really nothing.
Especially in today's market.
It's nothing. And so this is an actual grant. One of the things the Biden administration has made very clear is they believe housing is infrastructure. And so part of their massive infrastructure bill will include a lot of these housing stimulus plans. So the second bill that was introduced just yesterday is the First-Time Homebuyer Act. And this would give first-time homebuyers up to 10%, a max of $15,000 of a tax credit for purchasing a primary residence. The first-time homebuyer is defined as someone who hasn't owned a home for the past 3 years. Their income cannot exceed more than 160% of the area's median income, and the buyer would need to use the home as a primary residence for up to 4 years, or if they should sell, they'd have to face potentially repaying back a portion of the credit. So that's the second bill that's been introduced. Obviously, these have to pass through the House, pass through the Senate. But the cool thing is there are some stimulus in play for first-time homebuyers. I know that we're all looking at housing affordability and going, how on earth are we going to tackle that animal?
Well, and I got really caught off guard on the second one. You said 10%. I'm like, all right, now we're talking. That's a good sized down payment, up to 15. Well, don't call me a United States of America real estate expert. But, that's
where's
the
the
average value of $150,000.
Yeah, the average home
That doesn't
price
even
is roughly
make like
$240.
who came up with that? Come on, people, you can do better than that if you're going to pass some bills.
I think there's a cardboard box on Guadalupe and Higley.
It's crazy. That's our pricing.
That's
Well,
$100,000.
okay, something interesting. Actually, the Down Payment Toward Equity Act is eligible on manufactured homes and condos and townhomes. On the First Time Home Buyer Act, it may be, but I didn't dive that deep, so I don't know 100%. But if you're, I thought that was interesting on the Down Payment Toward Equity Act that they're also going to extend this to a manufactured home.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
that is.
Like, so.
On land or
they haven't
just-
really done
just
that
any
in the past
manufacturer?
time.
No.
No, it obviously would have to be affixed.
You're right.
It
It'd
would
have
have
to
to be
be
fixed,
right.
okay.
Yeah,
But
where it
even
doesn't have
still,
a VIN. It
potentially-
doesn't have a VIN number.
Yeah, it's not a vehicle that's registered with the motor vehicle department.
You can't have an RV. You can't do an RV.
No,
Oh,
you
bummer.
may not. No. Yeah, so those are just some interesting things that are kind of on the horizon.
It is.
Yeah, lots happening. And I think we had talked about the CFPB rule change that they're proposing. Did we talk about that last week? Because that's a big one, too.
No,
No?
we did
didn't
not.
talk about that?
Nope.
Well, we had a guest, and the
Yep.
week before we had a guest. So this is also something interesting that's happening. So the CFPB is looking at all of these houses that are in forbearance. There's about 2.4 million Americans across the
Insane.
U.S. in forbearance, right? And they're saying that there's a percentage of those individuals that may be in trouble. But the interesting thing is 90% of all of the individuals in forbearance have at least 11% equity
Yeah.
in their home. So if they do need to sell, they're going to be able to clear closing costs, clear realtor fees, walk away with a little bit of cash. But what the CFPB is doing is they're saying, okay, when the CARES Act came out and basically allowed, this is crazy, I didn't really understand the depth of this until recently. So the CARES Act said that you could go into mortgage forbearance with absolutely proving no hardship. You simply called up your
That's insane.
servicer and said, I'd like to go into forbearance, and
Yep.
you could go into mortgage forbearance. So you did not have to prove you were in a hardship situation. Here's the other thing. You are not being reported late or delinquent to credit reporting agencies.
So it's almost silly to pay your bill.
So you could go get a refi even?
I don't know the inner workings of this and how that works, but what they're saying is that you are not being negatively impacted whatsoever. So a lot of these individuals went into forbearance that maybe didn't quite need
Strategically.
it, or just wanted to just in case. And sure, times are very uncertain. I get it. I totally understand it. But the thing is, it's interesting, is that the CARES Act only covered federally insured, so FHA, VA, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. What CFPB is doing with this proposed rule change is they're saying servicers of all loans.
Wow.
All loans would have to abide by this rule. And if this rule changes, what it will mean is that the servicer must allow someone in forbearance up to 480 months, 40 years of a loan modification.
Wow, that's cool.
Is that insane?
That's, I don't even know how to respond to that. Other
They don't
than
want homeless people.
Well, I was about to say that could say bye-bye foreclosures if you get the right information right in front of you, or
I
get
thought
the
that
right
was
help.
crazy.
And they're assuming
Well, that's a
that
violation of like a lot of like capitalistic constitution stuff too. Now, because now you're talking
So
about.
if you-
I
but if
know
you-
that's going to be the debate.
That was the question: is who is picking up
Yeah,
the bill for
who's
these?
picking up the bill?
Right. So here's who's picking up the bill: Ginnie Mae. Ginnie Mae has been adding liquidity to servicers that have borrowers in forbearance. So that's the answer. Now, where are they getting their money? Well, they're government-sponsored entities. So
Yep.
I
So
don't
who's
know.
paying it?
So it's being printed.
we
They're
are.
printing like crazy right
Yeah.
now. The other interesting thing about the CFPB rule change would be that if it is passed, if it goes through, they will not be able to start foreclosure proceedings on anyone in forbearance until January 1, 2022.
So if you had like 10 like investor properties or investment properties, you could just go into forbearance on all of them. But obviously you
Yeah,
can't.
and just keep collecting rent.
But those tenants could also not be paying as well, right?
That's
be.
yeah, because
so
that's
if
a
your tenants
whole
aren't playing,
nother
you're going
issue.
to go into mortgage forbearance.
Well, and that's why they just raised some of the qualification standards, right? They just, Fannie and Freddie, they just changed some of the qualification standards due to the fact of some of these changes that are coming down the pike, like you said. I know where they can literally close on their house and go into forbearance virtually the next day.
Insane.
It is insane.
It's crazy. And so, yeah, so I guess the takeaway is they're really trying to prevent a lot of these homes from hitting the market in a distressed type of environment.
It's a control. Well, to me, I think that's one of the biggest things that happened in the crash of 7 through 12.
It hurts everybody.
Well, as they figured out how to truly manipulate the economy, and they did it through real estate. When you look at the rebound that really started to happen, what was it that really started to rebound, and the money flowed downhill from there? Real estate. It was 11 that things started to tick and change. 12, you really saw the market start to shoot up, and we all know, 13 on, the floodgates started to open again. So it's a manipulation factor. Again, maybe it's just my perspective. But
I think it's a good manipulation factor. I mean, you don't want a bunch of people foreclosing. What happens when a bunch of people foreclose? It puts stresses on other parts of the economy.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that they don't want that to happen because they saw it happen so badly in 2007, 2008.
Yep.
And it wrecked a lot of the economy.
Yeah.
But we're nowhere near that. We do not have any of those indicators.
Because of stuff like this, right?
Well, no, not necessarily. It's also because we have a legitimate housing shortage. Like, it is legitimate.
Legit.
And so also, as I'm looking at the landscape and I'm looking at, in the Phoenix market, what's our average purchase price? $440?
Yeah, it's
right?
insane
In
right
super
now.
affordable areas across the U.S., Dallas used to be super affordable. The average price there is like $330.
Yep.
Houston used to be super affordable. Florida used to be super affordable.
Yep.
These places are no longer affordable. Like, if you are a first-time home buyer and you are staring down the barrel of a $400,000 price range, that's insane.
Yeah, $2,100, $2,200 mortgage payment, and that's even with your new 3% mortgage rate or interest rate. Yeah,
It's crazy.
It's very crazy. So
But those are the only things that's actually making these new heightened prices even remotely palatable is the cost of money is so cheap, right? Which is what, the number one thing that most people make their decision on, right? Is what's the cost of money? What's my debt load versus my income on a monthly basis, right? Can I make it work?
Well, what I've read is that it's low interest rates also, and rising wages are increasing affordability. Now, the rising wages, that could be debatable. Is that just inflation? I don't know. But do you think that, we're going to see less home ownership 10 years from now than we do now?
I don't know. I don't know if it'll be
Europe?
less home ownership, but I think it's not going to be like our parents and our grandparents and the generations before that lived in houses for 20 to 50 years. And I think what's the average here in the Phoenix metro area? 7-8 years, something like that. I think people are just going to be moving more freely.
We have a high turnover rate.
And their house is going to be just, I got some equity in it. Boom. That's some monopoly money, baby. Let's go do something else. So I think...
Well, I don't
think it'll go down. I think it's just going to be a much more constant process. Because
of the elevated ease to sell and move your house, right?
Exactly.
Part of what the iBuyer experiment is all about, right? There's so many new opportunities for people to sell their house with a click of a button, right? I mean, look at what trading in your car did to the car industry, right? It was 20 years ago. You had to I guess it's probably 30 years ago now. You had to actually sell your car yourself versus just going to your local dealership and here you go.
Autotrader.com. You got to call the photographer to come take a picture of your car,
or go down to the
put it in the magazine.
It was a total different.
That's
process.
how it was when I was still.
And
back
now
in my
it's
day.
just boom, done in a day.
You think it has to do with the pain of actually doing the thing? Do you think that it could also just be like a mindset shift in
I
people?
I think it's a mindset
right?
shift.
Like
That's
our
what I
parents'
think.
generation, the generation before that, generation before that came out of the Great Depression, right? Maybe they were like more like content with living just in the same place and having the same stuff. And
now you got HGTV, all right? You go, that looks nice. I want to go there.
I mean, think about it. Knowledge, education, food, computers, everything is on demand, right? Like, with the click of a button in most cases, right? Just like Noah, we had a few episodes ago on here. Think about what it's going to look like when he's 40. Right. You double his 20-year-old lifespan.
Robots everywhere.
Hey, robot cops are already coming out, man. RoboCop
Be like
is
Wall-E.
turning real. Yeah.
Remember the movie
of course.
Wall-E?
Yeah.
And the fat people are just cruising around on those big chairs and
Yep.
things. They deliver you drinks and stuff.
and you're just plugged into it. You're just plugged into the
Yep.
What was that? Man, great. it's a movie where is it Idiocracy?
Yeah.
Idiocracy, where they're all dumbed down in society because everything is turned automated and the humans
you don't need to learn. You don't need to
humans
do
are just like they exist.
Sounds a lot like what we've got with our phones, right? Yeah. Well, but yeah, we've got access to all of this knowledge. I love the quote that says, like, knowledge is knowing a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad.
Ooh, I've never heard that one.
Me neither.
Isn't it good?
That is really good. Yep. So, I guess we can pick up our debate here for a second that we were having right before we launched on the show.
Okay.
One of the biggest things that we were talking about right now, right, is, the goal of the iBuyer experiment is to constantly empower our listeners and, out there with some tools that are going on. And one of the biggest things I was just sharing with the group here is making sure that I feel like it's super important right now to make sure that your message is consistently in front of your database and your sphere of influence through automation. And being able to do these things is highly important right now with all the disruption that's currently in place. And so, and then you were saying, Kayla.
Well, you had mentioned that you believe that that's the agent of the future. Mm-hmm. Something to that effect. And what I said is, what I believe is the agent that builds a very strong personal brand will be the one that survives, because I believe that creating a personal brand creates a lot of trust. And so it's harder to disrupt trust than it would be other things, right? Like, so that was just my take.
Yeah, and I think I definitely think we're on the same page there, because one of the things it is so important, I believe, through technology and automation today is being able to have your unique message, your unique value proposition, but making it seem personal, right? Like, there's a lot of things out there that you can maximize your time by sending one email to your database that it does come from a personalized standpoint. But when you get in response to those things, you obviously have to be able to address the one-off concerns and make it more of that heightened personal experience. And like I said, whether you're doing, and to me, you now need to do these things on multiple platforms. So whether it be through Messenger, as simple as email, right? Like, I think that's one of the huge things that's important about our times right now is understanding the email open rates of especially if they know you, those open rates are back up to pretty high.
Yeah, 100%. I 100% believe in deploying a database and using automations. And I know that Keith has a really cool article kind of synopsis he wants to share. And so I believe it's the agent that takes the article, like Keith is about to kind of sum up for us, and takes some of that, information that's kind of happening in the world, and takes that and maybe like makes a video of that, and like makes that video and goes Facebook Live or posts a video personal. And says,
makes a reel.
Yeah, like, hey, here's what's going on in the market.
Camera in your face.
Right. And then they're also doing that in combination with like showing the world who they are. Yep. Right? Because nobody wants to work with a douchebag, right?
I don't.
No, nobody does.
Sometimes you don't know until
exactly.
But you do by watching social media.
Right.
I think a lot. Once
the
toothpaste
really
is out of the
bottle, can't get it back.
By what you can, I think you can pretty much tell.
Some people
can
have
hide it pretty good.
Well, that's why those people with those highly curated, perfect feeds scare me, because I think I don't trust you because nobody is that perfect.
Unless they are completely on camera all the time, and they're it's like you see everything.
Some people do know how to turn it off and on, right? Like with a pretty good switch, right? Like actors.
2 seconds they're yelling at their kids, and they're like.
Like Tom Cruise, when you guys remember that in COVID, and when he got caught on scene just going postal at his crew because one of the people took their mask off.
I do remember that.
He didn't want COVID. All right, what do you got, Keith? Tell us.
Well, I mean, it's always a topic. It'll probably always be a topic, but I also think it's funny too, just because it's like, oh, here we go again, full circle. I mean, because we've been complaining about Zestimates as real estate agents in the real estate industry for over a decade now at this point. Well, you go on a listing appointment. Oh, well, I went on Zillow and it said my house is worth $325, and you're saying it's worth, $300, and you're like, okay, well, let me explain how this works. It's just an algorithm, and I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But now an article just came out either today or yesterday on Inman. It says, Zestimates can't keep up with the wild housing market, agents say. agents from all around the country talk about widening the gap between Zestimates and MLS home value data as inventory shortage pushes prices to new heights. So there's a gentleman by the name of Jen Collin. It says he leads a real estate group out in Sacramento, and 3 other agents that Inman talked with had essentially said companies like Zillow and Redfin never line up with reality, but they've only gotten worse in the recent months. They're not off by like $10,000. They're off by like $100,000, $200,000. Now, obviously, we're talking about the Sacramento market, but so but let's just face the facts. That is
appreciation. That's what's going to happen.
But that's a battle that we face in our industry, because that's how much influence and power Zillow has over the consumer. They're going to see that number before they ever talk to
for sure
a family, a friend, a random person.
Absolutely.
It could make them more apt to accept the Zillow offer.
So, you're right. And so,
dang, I didn't realize.
I just think it's funny that I hadn't heard people complaining about the Zestimate again, and here we are.
Well, that's certainly like the tale of two sides, right? Because there's been so many times. I mean, if you rewind the clock 2 years, that a lot of times they were saying that there's no way that I could sell a house for what Zillow's saying what it is, right? They're speaking out of both sides of their mouth. The only thing I will say that is a challenge on that, I don't even know if you can truly value, depending on the market, right? This is market specific. But here locally, the MLS cannot, it's almost impossible to value a house, because we can comp a house all day long right now, and a house is worth what?
What
a buyer is willing to pay.
Yeah.
And there is so much data right now that is not supporting the value, period, final, end of story.
I think
that's also BS too.
The Urban Dictionary says that a house is worth what the Zestimate says it is.
Yeah, that's funny. That's a good one. And see, now that's in my opinion, in my 10-year career, I guess almost going on 11 now, that statement has never been more true. Back when, of course, it's worth what a buyer's willing to pay if they have cash. Yeah. But no, it's worth what a bank's willing
to lend.
To lend.
Yep.
And that's always been the battle.
The appraisal
now it is what a
which is based on supporting data.
Wow, a buyer's willing to pay, because they're giving the seller the sun, stars, and the moon and another galaxy.
Well, they're giving the additional cash above whatever the bank is willing to lend.
That's what I'm saying.
Right? Yep.
So
absolutely, supply and demand.
But it's just kind of funny.
All right, guys, it's going to wrap it up for us. Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in on our 1-year anniversary show.
Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you for
and happy birthday to Abby. Happy 12.
We truly appreciate you taking the time to be with us here today on the iBuyer Experiment podcast. Please remember to like and subscribe so that you're notified when we launch new podcasts. We'll catch you on the next one.
Show you the money.